You cheered for them, quoted their lines, maybe even defended them online. But behind the scenes, these 10 actors weren't misunderstood. They were protected, and what they did, it's all documented. Flynn's scandalous trial. In the early 1940s, Errol Flynn was the king of Hollywood adventure. He played heroes with swords and charm, stealing hearts in Robin Hood and Captain Blood. But off-screen, things were far darker. In 1942, Flynn was charged with inappropriate conduct involving 2 teenage girls, Betty Hansen, age 17, and Peggy Satterley, just 16. One said the incident happened at Flynn's Hollywood home. The other said it took place on his yacht, the Sirocco. Both claimed he took advantage of them while they were drinking. Flynn denied everything and pleaded not guilty. The trial started in early 1943 and became national news. Headlines called it the trial of the century. Flynn's defense team went after the girls' reputations hard, claiming they were lying for fame. Some newspapers echoed that view, calling them girls with wild pasts, despite their age. Meanwhile, Flynn sat in court calm and smiling, cracking jokes with the press during breaks. The prosecution brought in witnesses, photos, and letters. Court documents showed troubling patterns. Flynn had allegedly bragged to friends about his adventures with young women. But the jury, made up of 9 men and 3 women, didn't convict. They found him not guilty after 13 hours of deliberation. Even though Flynn walked free, the case left a mark. His once squeaky clean image took a hit. Behind the pirate grin and sword-fighting flair was a man whose private behavior had gone under a microscope. For years after, fans were split. Some stayed loyal, others never saw him the same way again. Hollywood didn't cancel him. In fact, Warner Brothers doubled down on his bad boy appeal, putting him in more man-of-danger roles. But the truth was out. The man behind the legend had been dragged into court over serious claims involving minors. Mitchum's marijuana arrest. Robert had that sleepy-eyed charm and a voice like gravel. In the late 1940s, he was a rising star of film noir, tough, cool, untouchable. But in 1948, his real-life reputation took a major hit. That year, Mitchum was arrested during a late-night party in Laurel Canyon. Police raided the house and found marijuana. Mitchum, along with a young actress named Lila Leeds and 2 others, was taken into custody. The news hit like a bomb. The star of Out of the Past had been busted for drugs. The trial wasn't long. In early 1949, Mitchum pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 60 days in county jail, plus 2 years of probation. He ended up serving 43 days. During his time behind bars, photographers caught every moment, from shaving to sweeping floors. Life magazine even ran a photo spread of him mopping the jail floor, looking almost amused. Mitchum claimed the whole thing was a setup. He later told reporters that the drugs were planted or that he'd been targeted. But he didn't fight too hard in court. Some say he wanted to get it over with. Others think the studio advised him to lay low and ride it out. And that's exactly what happened. Rather than destroy his career, the scandal gave him a new kind of appeal. He became Hollywood's rebel, tougher, edgier, and more real than the clean-cut leading men of the day. RKO Pictures even re-released one of his older films to cash in on the press. Still, the arrest stayed with him. In interviews years later, Mitchum joked about it, calling the jail time just a bad weekend. But fans who remembered the headlines knew it had nearly derailed him. In a time when marijuana was seen as dangerous and criminal, Mitchum's case stood out. He was one of the first big-name actors to get caught up in a drug scandal. It shook up Hollywood's clean image and opened the door for the idea that stars weren't always saints. And from a smoky jail cell in Los Angeles, the message was clear. Even Hollywood's cool guys weren't untouchable. Sheen's clash with Denise Richards. In the early 2002, Charlie Sheen was back on top. After years of trouble, 2.5 Men made him a television superstar. He played a lovable bad boy, and people thought it was just a role. But in 2005, the mask started to slip. That year, his wife, actress Denise Richards, filed for divorce while 6 months pregnant. The papers painted a dark picture. According to court documents, Sheen had a violent outburst that same year. Richards claimed he threw a chair at her while she was holding their baby daughter. She also said he made threats and showed a pattern of anger. The public was stunned. Sheen had worked hard to shake off his past issues with drugs and sex work. The new image was of a reformed dad with a hit show, but the legal filings told a different story. Sheen denied the claims. He said Richards was trying to ruin his reputation and block him from seeing their kids, but the judge saw enough to grant her a restraining order. For fans, it was a shock. The guy who made them laugh every Monday night was now the subject of headlines filled with anger and fear. The drama played out in the press for months. Richards spoke out in interviews, saying she stayed quiet at first to protect their children. She described feeling unsafe and manipulated. Meanwhile, Sheen continued filming, cracking jokes, and pretending nothing was wrong. Behind the scenes, CBS stayed quiet. The show stayed on the air. Ratings were strong, but the cracks were visible, especially to those who read the court filings. This wasn't Sheen's first red flag, and as time would show, it wouldn't be his last. But in 2005, this was the moment many realized his comedy persona might be hiding something darker. The tension between sitcom fame and real-life behavior was too strong to ignore. Gooding's nightclub incident. For years, Cuba Gooding Jr. was Hollywood's feel-good guy. His Oscar-winning role in Jerry Maguire made him a household name. He shouted, "Show me the money," and the world loved him for it. But in 2019, the tone changed. It started with a night out in June 2019. A woman claimed that Gooding touched her inappropriately at a rooftop bar in Manhattan. She filed a police report, and days later, Gooding turned himself in. He denied the accusation and pleaded not guilty. His lawyers said there was security footage proving he did nothing wrong. But as the case moved forward, more stories surfaced. Prosecutors revealed that 14 other women had also come forward. Their claims dated back as far as 2003. One woman said he grabbed her at a party. Another said he made crude remarks and touched her without consent at a restaurant. The reports varied, but they painted a pattern. Gooding's legal team pushed back. They said the stories were exaggerated or taken out of context. He kept denying any wrongdoing. But the media attention only grew, and so did the damage to his reputation. In 2022, Gooding pleaded guilty to one count of forcible touching in a deal that allowed him to avoid jail time. He later withdrew the plea and reached a settlement in a separate civil lawsuit in 2023. The details of that deal weren't made public. By that point, the damage was done. The same guy who once danced on stage holding an Oscar was now best known for court dates and headlines. Fans who grew up watching him in movies like Radio and Men of Honor were left wondering how things got so far off track. The incident forced a lot of people to rethink what they thought they knew about Gooding. His once wholesome image had taken a serious hit, and no amount of charm could erase the reports. Brand's troubling accusations. He built a career on shock. He was loud, brash, and unpredictable, part comic, part provocateur. From raunchy stand-up to wild interviews, nothing seemed off-limits. But in September 2023, the headlines stopped laughing. A joint investigation by the Sunday Times, The Times, and Channel 4's dispatches revealed that 4 women had accused Brand of serious misconduct between 2006 and 2013. One case involved a woman who said Brand engaged in inappropriate behavior with her at his London home in 2012. She was treated at a crisis center the same day, according to medical records cited in the report. Another woman, just 16 at the time, said she was manipulated into a controlling relationship while Brand was in his 30s. She claimed he referred to her as the child during their time together and once sent a car to pick her up from school. The age of consent in the UK is 16, but the power gap and Brand's celebrity made the dynamic deeply troubling. Brand responded quickly, posting a video to his YouTube channel. He denied all allegations and claimed he was the target of a coordinated media attack. "I absolutely refute these allegations," he said, adding that all his relationships were consensual. But the fallout came fast. YouTube demonetized his channel. His comedy shows were canceled. Publishing deals were paused. Politicians called for deeper investigations, and more women began speaking to reporters. The story dominated UK media for weeks. Brand, who had rebranded himself in recent years as a political commentator and wellness guru, now found himself in the center of a scandal. His older jokes in past interviews resurfaced, many filled with references to risky encounters, dominance, and conquest. What used to be dismissed as just Russell being Russell now felt different. Hammer's shocking text controversy. Armie Hammer once had the kind of career most actors dream about. With his role in Call Me by Your Name, he earned critical praise, a loyal fan base, and leading man status in Hollywood. He was charming, clean-cut, and safe for press tours. But that image shattered in early 2021 when private messages allegedly from Hammer began surfacing on social media. The screenshots, first posted anonymously on Instagram, detailed disturbing fantasies involving dominance and control. The content was graphic, but what made it worse was how many women soon stepped forward. One woman, identified publicly as Effie, claimed Hammer coerced her into a relationship in 2017 and committed serious non-consensual acts. Effie later held a press conference with attorney Gloria Allred, describing what she said were manipulative and traumatic experiences. Hammer denied any criminal behavior. Through his legal team, he stated that all relationships were consensual and based on mutual agreement. From day one, Mr. Hammer has maintained that his interactions were entirely consensual, discussed and agreed upon in advance. His attorney said in March 2021, "Still, the media frenzy only grew louder. More women came forward. Some described emotional manipulation. Others claimed he crossed boundaries in ways that left them feeling used and scared. Stories varied, but the pattern was hard to ignore. The Los Angeles Police Department opened a formal investigation. Hammer stepped away from several film projects, including a major role opposite Jennifer Lopez in Shotgun Wedding. He was also dropped by his agency, WME, and lost brand deals. In mid-2021, he entered a treatment facility in Florida, reportedly for issues related to substance use and trauma. In 2023, after 2 years of review, prosecutors declined to file criminal charges, citing insufficient evidence. Legally, the case was closed. Publicly, it wasn't. Hammer's career hadn't recovered. He gave a brief interview in 2022 where he expressed regret and admitted to being emotionally abusive in past relationships. But the response was mixed. Many felt it was too late and not enough. What made this story hit so hard was how fast it unraveled. One day, Hammer was Hollywood's next big thing. The next, he was gone from screens, projects canceled, reputation ruined by screenshots, and stories too serious to ignore. Masterson's 30-year sentence. He was best known for playing Hyde on That 72nd Show, a laid-back, wisecracking stoner with a cult following. Off-screen, he lived a very different life. By 2023, he wasn't facing cameras. He was facing decades behind bars. In September of that year, Masterson was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. A jury found him guilty of 2 counts of serious misconduct involving 2 women. The crimes took place in 2001 and 2003 at his home in Hollywood Hills. Both victims were members of the Church of Scientology, like Masterson himself. They said the church discouraged them from going to the police. One woman told the court she was drugged and experienced serious misconduct while drifting in and out of consciousness. The other described trying to push Masterson off her before passing out. Prosecutors said the evidence was overwhelming, graphic testimony, supporting witnesses, and consistent accounts. The jury agreed. This was not Masterson's first trial. The first attempt in 2022 ended in a mistrial when jurors couldn't reach a unanimous decision. But in the retrial, with new testimony allowed and a more focused case, the jury convicted him on 2 of 3 counts. Throughout both trials, Masterson remained silent. He showed no emotion during victim impact statements, even as one woman looked him in the eye and told him she hoped he'd think about the pain you caused every single day. His wife, actress Bijou Phillips, was present at sentencing but filed for divorce shortly after. Scientology's role in the case drew intense media attention. Victims testified that they were pressured to stay silent, avoid outside authorities, and report misconduct only within the church. One said she was threatened with being labeled a suppressive person if she spoke out. The 30-year sentence marked a turning point. It was one of the longest prison terms handed down to a celebrity in the post-number Me Too era. Fans of that 70-second show were left stunned. The cast had once been a tight-knit group. Now, one of its biggest names was behind bars. Masterson's conviction wasn't just another headline. It was a rare moment when the system actually followed through, and the consequences were as serious as the crimes. LaBeouf's conflict with FKA Twigs. He was once the golden boy of chaotic charm. From Transformers to Fury, he built a career on intensity, both on screen and off. But in December 2020, the public saw another side of him when singer FKA Twigs filed a lawsuit accusing him of deeply harmful behavior during their relationship. The relationship began in 2018, but Twigs said the problem started almost immediately. In the lawsuit, she claimed LaBeouf was controlling, emotionally abusive, and physically harmful. One example involved him allegedly choking her in her sleep. She also described an incident where he threatened to crash the car they were in unless she professed love for him. The suit included claims of isolation, manipulation, and even health issues tied to his behavior. LaBeouf didn't deny everything. In a response to the New York Times, he admitted, "I have been abusive to myself and everyone around me for years." He added, "I have no excuses for my alcoholism or aggression, only rationalizations." Still, he denied many specific claims from the lawsuit and argued the relationship was not as one-sided as it was being portrayed. The lawsuit drew widespread media coverage, especially because of Twig's status as an acclaimed artist and advocate for survivors. She gave several interviews describing how difficult it was to leave the relationship and how she hoped speaking out would help others. LaBeouf's career took a hit. Netflix quietly removed his name from its Pieces of a Woman Awards campaign. Planned projects disappeared. Even his agent stopped representing him. By early 2021, he had checked into rehab for inpatient treatment and disappeared from the spotlight. As of 2025, the lawsuit is still ongoing. Twigs has continued to speak out, using her platform to raise awareness about emotional abuse. LaBeouf has stayed mostly silent, surfacing only in rare interviews or appearances. The case opened a wider discussion about abuse that isn't always visible, about how someone can seem charming and talented, yet still cause serious damage behind closed doors. Casey Affleck's on-set misconduct. Casey's career peaked in 2017 when he won the Academy Award for Manchester by the Sea. But long before the red carpet moment, two women had already taken him to court over what they said happened behind the scenes of a different project. In 2010, Affleck was sued by Amanda White and Magdalena Gorka, both of whom worked with him on the mockumentary I'm Still Here. White, a producer, and Gorka, the cinematographer, alleged a pattern of harassment and unprofessional behavior on set. The lawsuits described a chaotic work environment filled with crude jokes, inappropriate comments, and unwanted advances. Gorka claimed she was forced to sleep in the same hotel room as Affleck and woke up to him in bed with her, wearing only a t-shirt and underwear. She also alleged she was subjected to lewd conversations and degrading treatment by crew members, while Affleck, the film's director, did nothing to stop it. White said she was routinely subjected to verbal abuse and that Affleck once grabbed her without consent when she refused to stay in a hotel room with him. Affleck denied all allegations and said the lawsuits were baseless. Still, both cases were settled out of court for undisclosed amounts. No criminal charges were filed, and Affleck went quiet about the situation for years. The controversy resurfaced when he became an Oscar frontrunner in 2016. Critics and advocates questioned how the Academy could reward someone with such a history. Actress Brie Larson, who presented Affleck with the award, made headlines by refusing to clap after announcing his win. It was a moment that didn't go unnoticed. Affleck finally addressed the controversy in 2018. He admitted he had contributed to an unprofessional environment and said he had learned from the experience. But by then, the damage was already done. The accusations continued to shadow his career, casting a long shadow over what should have been his biggest moment. The lawsuits may have been settled, but the questions they raised never really went away. For many, Affleck's off-screen behavior couldn't be separated from his awards or roles. Baldoni's clash with Blake Lively. Justin Baldoni built his reputation as the nice guy of Hollywood. From his breakout as Raphael on Jane the Virgin to his image as a thoughtful director and mental health advocate, Baldoni was known for kindness, charm, and progressive messaging. That all changed in December 2024 when Blake Lively filed a lawsuit accusing him of inappropriate behavior during production of the film It Ends With Us. Lively claimed that Baldoni, who directed and co-starred in the project, fostered a toxic on-set environment. According to court documents, she alleged he made unprofessional remarks in front of cast and crew, pressured her during emotionally intense scenes, and retaliated when she voiced concern. The lawsuit stated that after she spoke up, she was targeted in what her legal team described as a smear campaign, with false rumors about her behavior spread to industry contacts. Baldoni's team denied all accusations. His publicist called the claims baseless and clearly timed to damage his career. Still, the fallout was immediate. He was dropped by his talent agency within days. Several advocacy organizations he partnered with distanced themselves. An award he was set to receive for social impact was quietly withdrawn. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, partly because it came from someone with Lively's profile. She's long been known as a careful, selective actress who rarely courts controversy. Her decision to go public gave the claims added weight. Support poured in from both fans and fellow actors who praised her for speaking out. His production company released a brief statement saying it supported safe, respectful workplace practices and would cooperate with any investigation. As of mid-2025, the case remains unresolved. Legal teams continue to negotiate, and no final judgment has been made, but the reputational hit has already landed. The man once seen as Hollywood's wholesome alternative now finds himself under scrutiny, not for what he portrayed on screen, but for what allegedly happened behind the camera. It was a fitting end to a list full of actors who fooled the public with charisma, only to be exposed by what was happening when the cameras weren't rolling.
You cheered for Chris Brown at the VMAs, you sang along to Michael Jackson at prom, but what if the music you grew up loving was written by men doing things you'd never want to defend out loud? Jerry Lee Lewis married his cousin. He was one of the biggest names in early rock and roll, but in 1957, right as he was blowing up, he made a move that shocked everyone. He secretly married his 13-year-old cousin, Myra Gale Brown. She was still in middle school and also the daughter of his bass player. Oh, and he was still married to someone else. It didn't stay secret for long. When he went to tour in England, reporters found out. They asked him about Myra at a press event. When she admitted she was 13, everything fell apart. The tour was canceled after just 3 shows. Crowds booed, promoters backed out, radio stations stopped playing his songs. Just like that, his career hit a wall. Jerry tried to fix the story. He said Myra was actually 15. He said their marriage was legal in the U.S., but it didn't help. People were disgusted. Even in the 1950s, this crossed a line. Years later, Myra said she didn't even understand what was going on. On her wedding night, she asked, "When do I go home?" The two stayed married for 13 years, but it was full of drama and bad press. Jerry's music career never fully recovered. He tried switching to country music and got a few hits, but he never reached that early level of fame again. No matter what he did, people remembered the cousin marriage. This wasn't just a scandal. It was the kind of move that made fans walk away. And even now, when people bring up Jerry Lee Lewis, it's not just about his music. It's about that marriage, and the fact that it happened at all. Chuck Berry's hidden camera scandal. He was a rock legend. He helped shape the sound of modern music with hits like Johnny B. Good and Roll Over Beethoven. But in 1990, fans learned something they couldn't ignore. He was secretly filming women in the bathroom of his own restaurant. It started when a former employee sued him. She claimed he had hidden cameras in the women's restroom at the Southern Air, a restaurant Barry owned in Missouri. Soon, more women came forward with similar stories. Barry denied it at first, but when police searched his home, they found videotapes, hundreds of them. The tapes showed women and girls using the bathroom, all recorded without their knowledge. Investigators also found hidden camera equipment and still photos taken from those tapes. Barry eventually reached a settlement with 59 women, agreeing to pay over $1.2 million in total. He also faced a class action lawsuit and was put on probation. This wasn't his first run-in with the law. Back in the 1960s, he had already served time for violating the Mann Act. He transported a 14-year-old girl across state lines for work and was later accused of engaging in inappropriate relations with her. That case sent him to prison for nearly 2 years. Still, the hidden camera scandal felt different. It wasn't a single accusation. It was years of behavior caught on tape. After the news broke, some fans dropped him completely. Others looked the other way, clinging to the idea that music and personal life should stay separate. But the facts were hard to ignore. The evidence was there, and the women didn't back down. Despite the backlash, Barry never lost his fame. He still performed, still got awards, and even had a documentary made about his life. But the bathroom camera case never fully went away. It stayed in the background, a dark stain on his legacy. Gary Glitter's crimes across continents. He was once a huge glam rock star. His songs like Rock and Roll Part 2 played in stadiums and sports arenas for years. He wore shiny suits, big sunglasses, and had a wild stage presence. But in 1999, everything changed, and not because of music. A computer repair worker found illegal content on Glitter's laptop. He was arrested and later admitted to having it. He served a short sentence in the UK, but after getting out, he left the country. That's when things got worse. He traveled through several countries in Southeast Asia. In 2006, he was convicted in Vietnam for serious crimes involving young girls. He served more prison time there than was sent back to the UK. He was placed under legal monitoring and barred from entering several countries after that. Even with all this, the full truth didn't come out until later. In 2012, Glitter was arrested again during a big UK investigation called Operation U-Tree. It focused on public figures accused of harming minors in past decades. In 2015, he was found guilty of several crimes, including actions involving girls under 13. These weren't rumors. These were official charges backed up in court. He was sentenced to 16 years. This wasn't just one bad decision. The court showed a pattern that lasted for years. There were multiple victims. The evidence was strong. And it all happened while he was performing, touring, and appearing on TV. Still, his music didn't fully disappear. In 2019, one of his songs was used in the movie Joker. That set off a wave of public anger. Many asked why someone with that kind of history was still getting airtime or royalties. For years, people sang along without knowing. But once the truth came out, it was clear. Gary Glitter didn't just fall from fame. He was taken off the stage for a reason. R. Kelly's secret marriage and accusations. In the 90s, R. Kelly was one of the biggest names in R&B. His songs were everywhere: weddings, graduations, award shows. But offstage, his personal life started raising serious concerns. It began in 1994 when he secretly married 15-year-old singer Aaliyah. The marriage license listed her age as 18. That wasn't true. The marriage was quickly annulled, but it left people asking questions that didn't go away. Over the years, more women came forward with stories. Many said they met Kelly when they were young and were later cut off from family and friends. Some said they were closely monitored and told when to eat, speak, or leave a room. Still, for a long time, these stories didn't get much attention. In 2002, a video was released that led to charges against Kelly involving a minor. He denied the claims and went to trial 6 years later. In 2008, he was found not guilty. He continued to release albums, tour, and appear on talk shows. For many fans, that seemed like the end of it. But in 2019, the documentary Surviving R. Kelly aired on TV. Several women and former employees spoke on camera, sharing their experiences. It shocked viewers and forced the public to take another look. Protests followed. Radio stations stopped playing his music. Artists pulled past collaborations. The backlash grew quickly. That same year, Kelly was arrested again. This time, he faced federal charges. In 2021, a jury found him guilty of using his position in the music industry to take advantage of young women. In 2022, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Ted Nugent's controversial past. He built his career on loud guitars, wild energy, and an in-your-face attitude. His music was all about rebellion, and he leaned into that image with full force. But looking back, some of his choices and comments from the early days don't sit well with people today. In the late 1970s, Nugent had a well-known relationship with someone much younger than him. To make their time together easier legally, he arranged a type of guardianship agreement with her family. That story has followed him for years, not because of a court case, but because of how unusual and uncomfortable it now sounds. What made things worse was how openly he talked about that time. In old interviews, he made jokes and comments about being attracted to girls far younger than himself. At the time, most of it was shrugged off as part of the rock star lifestyle, but when you hear those clips now, they land very differently. Some of his songs from that era also raised eyebrows. A few included lines that hinted at behavior that wouldn't be seen as acceptable today. These tracks were performed on stage, aired on radio, and sold in record stores without much pushback. But now, people are asking why no one stopped to question it then. Nugent has never faced legal charges tied to these situations. Still, the public conversation around him has shifted. In more recent years, he's become known for his political views, often speaking about responsibility, law, and morality. That shift has made his earlier behavior even more debated. It's the contrast that makes people pause. How can someone speak strongly about values while ignoring parts of their own past? That question keeps coming up, especially as clips, lyrics, and interviews continue to resurface online. Michael Jackson and the Neverland controversy. He was one of the most famous performers in the world. His voice, dance moves, and music videos changed pop culture forever. But while his fan base grew, questions about his personal life started to build, and they didn't go away. In 1993, a 13-year-old boy and his family accused Jackson of inappropriate behavior. Jackson denied everything. The case didn't go to trial, and it was settled out of court. That left many people wondering what really happened. Fans stood by him while others had doubts. In 2003, the spotlight returned when another young boy made similar claims. This time, Jackson was arrested and went to trial in 2005. He faced multiple charges, including serious accusations involving minors. The trial lasted months and was covered heavily by the media. Cameras followed him into court every day. In the end, the jury found him not guilty on all counts. Even after that verdict, public opinion stayed divided. Some believed he was targeted because of his fame. Others pointed to past cases and said the pattern was too hard to ignore. After his passing in 2009, the debate continued. In 2019, the documentary Leaving Neverland aired, featuring detailed interviews with two men who said they had been harmed by Jackson as children. The film got global attention. It sparked new conversations, protests, and even caused some radio stations to stop playing his music. Jackson's estate strongly denied the claims, and many fans defended him. But the documentary led to a major shift. For some, it confirmed long-held suspicions. For others, it was the first time they saw the story laid out in full. No matter where people stand, the controversy around Jackson never fully disappeared. His music remains popular, but the questions about his private life still hang in the background. The facts are complicated, the reactions are mixed, and the debate continues, even years later. Chris Brown's assault case. In 2009, Chris Brown's career took a sharp turn. Just before the Grammy Awards, news broke that he had been arrested after a serious argument with singer Rihanna. The story spread fast. Photos from the police report were leaked to the public and shocked fans around the world. Brown later admitted to what happened and pled guilty to a felony charge. He was sentenced to probation, community service, and counseling. The case was one of the most talked about stories of the year. His image was badly damaged, and many thought his career was over. For a while, it seemed like that might be true. Sponsors pulled deals. Awards show invites stopped coming. Radio stations dropped his songs. But slowly, Brown began to return to the spotlight. He released new music, performed at major events, and even got nominated for more awards. Some fans welcomed him back. Others were uncomfortable with how quickly the industry moved on. The conversation became less about the crime and more about how society treats celebrities who face serious charges and bounce back anyway. Over the years, Brown's name continued to show up in headlines for the wrong reasons. He had several public outbursts, including one where he threw a chair at a window during a TV appearance. He was also accused of other incidents involving aggressive behavior, though not all of them led to charges. Still, his fan base stayed strong. Albums sold well, tours were packed, and despite the controversies, many of his songs continued to climb the charts. Today, Chris Brown's reputation depends on who you ask. Some see him as an artist who made a serious mistake and worked to move forward. Others think his success shows how easily fame can erase accountability. Either way, his story became a major example of how quickly public figures can fall, and how fast they can rise again, whether or not the public agrees. The case with Rihanna hasn't been forgotten, but the way it was handled by the media, the courts, and the music world says a lot about who gets second chances and why. Marilyn Manson and the abuse allegations. For years, Marilyn Manson made a career out of shock. His music, style, and interviews were all designed to push limits. But in 2021, things took a serious turn when multiple women, including actress Evan Rachel Wood, publicly accused him of abuse. Wood had spoken about being mistreated by a former partner before, but she didn't name anyone. That changed in early 2021 when she posted on social media and called Manson out directly. She said he manipulated and controlled her during their relationship. After that, more women came forward with similar claims. Manson denied all of it. His team said the relationships were always consensual and that he was being unfairly targeted. Still, the backlash was fast. His record label dropped him. TV shows cut his appearances. Music stations pulled his songs. Even his talent agency stepped away. The public response was intense. Some fans defended him. Others said they always had concerns about his behavior, especially because of his image and past interviews. Clips resurfaced where he talked openly about dark themes and disturbing ideas. Suddenly, those old moments were being seen in a new light. One woman filed a civil lawsuit. Others shared stories with reporters and online. Investigations began. Police searched Manson's home in 2021, and legal cases are still moving through the system as of now. Some were dismissed, but others are ongoing. Even though Manson hasn't been convicted of a crime, the damage to his public image is already done. The accusations were enough to change how people view his music and career. And because he built his image around shock value, it made it harder for some fans to separate the art from the person. What made this case stand out was how many voices came forward at once, and how quickly the industry responded. Whether or not he faces further legal action, the reaction showed just how much the music world has changed. What once went ignored now makes headlines. And for Manson, those headlines haven't stopped. Adam Levine's DM scandal. As the frontman of Maroon 5 and a coach on The Voice, he was known for being smooth, charming, and family-focused. That changed in 2022 when his private messages became very public and very embarrassing. It started when a model posted screenshots of direct messages from Levine. She said they had been in contact for a while and that the messages crossed the line, even though he was married with kids. One of the messages included a comment about naming his child after her. That's what really got people talking. More women stepped forward after that, sharing flirty and suggestive messages they said Levine sent them. None of them claimed a relationship happened. Still, the screenshots made headlines, and the internet ran with it. Levine responded quickly. He admitted to sending inappropriate messages but said he didn't have any affairs. He apologized and said he had used poor judgment. His wife didn't make any public comments, but the couple was seen together afterward, putting on a united front. The scandal didn't involve anything criminal, but it shook up his reputation. People were surprised that someone seen as laid back and respectful was sending messages like that while being married. The memes and jokes exploded across social media. Levine didn't disappear, though. Maroon 5 kept performing. The scandal faded from headlines after a few weeks. But for some fans, the clean-cut image was already cracked. This case was different from others on this list. No lawsuits, no police, no years of silence, just screenshots and a lot of backlash. But it showed how fast things can change in the age of social media. A few messages were all it took to shift public opinion, at least for a while. Levine didn't lose his career, but he did lose some of the trust fans had in his image. And in today's world, that kind of damage spreads faster than ever. Matty Healy's public meltdowns. As a lead singer of the 1975, he was once known for being quirky, outspoken, and just a little weird, in a way that fans loved. But in 2023, that charm started to wear off fast. A string of strange interviews and messy behavior had people asking, "What is going on with this guy?" It started with a podcast appearance where Healy laughed along to jokes that many felt were offensive. The episode included comments about women and people of different backgrounds that sparked major backlash. Clips from the show went viral and fans weren't laughing. Soon after, he was seen watching inappropriate content on the same podcast, while the hosts joked about it. People said it wasn't just bad taste, it was flat-out disrespectful. Social media lit up with criticism, and even longtime fans started to back away. Healy tried to joke through it all. He posted online like nothing happened. At concerts, he made sarcastic comments and doubled down on some of the things he had said earlier. But instead of coming across as edgy, it started to feel careless. Things got worse when he made fun of other artists on stage, including popular female performers. That didn't go over well either. Musicians and fans called him out, saying his behavior was mean, not clever. Interviews from the past resurfaced, showing a pattern of behavior that many felt had been ignored for too long. Healy wasn't accused of a crime, but his public image took a hit. For someone who used to be praised for being different, the switch was fast. His actions weren't just seen as awkward, they were called out as harmful. Even as his band kept touring, the energy around him changed. What was once seen as artistic or edgy now looked out of touch. And in today's music world, that kind of shift doesn't go unnoticed. Healy may bounce back, but for now, his name is less about music and more about damage control.
Forget bad acting. That's easy to forgive. What these actors did behind closed doors, that's where the real horror stories live. And somehow, they still got standing ovations. Laurence Olivier's on-set bullying. He was already one of the biggest names in British acting when he signed on to direct and star in The Prince and the Showgirl, 1957. His co-star? Marilyn Monroe, Hollywood's biggest export at the time. What should have been a dream pairing turned into a toxic disaster. Olivier made it clear from day one that he didn't respect Monroe. He mocked her acting style, called her unprofessional, and told crew members she was just a body, not an actress. According to accounts from the set, he hated her method acting process and refused to accommodate her needs. Monroe often struggled with anxiety and relied on her acting coach, Paula Strasberg, for support. Olivier banned Strasberg from the set and then mocked Monroe for falling apart. Tensions got so bad that Monroe would cry between takes. Crew members said Olivier humiliated her in front of others, rolling his eyes and whispering insults during her scenes. Colin Clark, an assistant on set, later wrote in his memoir that Olivier purposely made things harder for Monroe, knowing it would throw her off. He reportedly told one crew member, "All she has to do is be sexy. Why is that so difficult?" Olivier didn't hide his contempt. In interviews, he called her impossible and blamed her for production delays, even though Monroe was dealing with health issues and pressure from both studios. Her husband, Arthur Miller, who visited the set, later said Monroe was emotionally bullied by Olivier from start to finish. After filming ended, Monroe refused to ever work with him again. Olivier, for his part, wrote later that directing her was like trying to teach a pig to sing. That quote stuck, and not in a good way. There were no public consequences, but the stories survived, and they paint a very different picture of the so-called legend. Jerry Lewis's co-star harassment. He made his name as a comic genius, but behind the scenes, he was a nightmare for many of the women who worked with him. Several former colleagues have since spoken out, describing a long pattern of inappropriate behavior, emotional abuse, and control. In the 1950s, actress Karen Sharp was cast opposite Lewis in The Disorderly Orderly. She later said Lewis invited her to his office and made an inappropriate move that left her feeling cornered and unsafe. When she rejected him, he told her she'd never work again and followed through. She never did another major film. In her words, "He was abusive and cruel. If you said no, you were done." Hope Holliday, who worked with Lewis in The Ladies' Man, told a similar story. She said he cornered her in a dressing room and forced himself on her. She escaped, but the fear stuck with her for decades. She didn't speak publicly until after his death. These weren't isolated stories. In the 1960s and 70s, Lewis kept a tight grip on his sets, especially around female cast members. He would limit their screen time, speak down to them, and brag that he alone decided who stayed and who got cut. He often used sexual threats as leverage. Lewis also had a reputation for humiliating his co-stars. On more than one set, he would make actresses read lines in front of the full crew while he interrupted with vulgar jokes. If they didn't laugh, he'd replace them. One assistant recalled him saying, "If she can't take a joke, she can't be in my picture." Many of these stories didn't come out until after Lewis died in 2017. But once the curtain lifted, the pattern was hard to ignore. Decades of silence, intimidation, and quiet blacklisting, all hidden behind a goofy smile and slapstick gags. Rex Harrison's cruel cast behavior. He built his career playing charming, upper-class men. In real life, he was known for being cold, rude, and often cruel, especially to those who couldn't fight back. Directors, co-stars, and crew described him as arrogant, condescending, and openly hostile to anyone he didn't respect. In the 1950s, his behavior drew serious concern when actress Carol Landis passed away shortly after their relationship reportedly ended. Harrison was married at the time. Landis rumoredly left a note, which vanished before police arrived. Harrison was the last person to see her alive. While he wasn't charged, his studio rushed to bury the story. Landis's family and friends believed he pushed her aside after promising her a future. His next big scandal came during the Broadway run of My Fair Lady. Julie Andrews, who played Eliza Doolittle, kept things professional, but insiders said Harrison treated her like a servant. He demanded the spotlight, refused to rehearse with understudies, and insisted on top billing even when Andrews started stealing the show. Stagehand said he often refused to speak to her between scenes and mocked her singing voice. On film sets, Harrison's temper was just as nasty. During Dr. Dolittle, 1967, he regularly exploded at crew members and demanded constant rewrites to suit his mood. He got into shouting matches with the director and made racist remarks about extras hired for background scenes. The production went over budget largely because of his delays and demands. Despite his reputation, Harrison kept getting major roles. Studios looked the other way because he delivered strong performances. But to the people behind the scenes, he was a constant source of fear and stress. He won an Oscar. He got a knighthood. But off-screen, the people who worked with him knew the truth. Rex Harrison made life on set miserable for anyone who wasn't Rex Harrison. Walter Matthau's mean-spirited conduct. He had the face of a grump and the timing of a pro. On screen, he was lovable, curmudgeonly, and always good for a laugh. Off screen, not so charming. Behind the scenes, Matthau was known for being loud, insulting, and often downright mean. Crew members from his early films said Matthau had no patience for people he considered beneath him. He swore constantly, belittled production assistants, and made extras cry more than once. Matthau also had a habit of insulting people in front of crowds. He'd mock wardrobe choices, mimic voices, and call out mistakes during live takes. It wasn't playful teasing, it was meant to embarrass. One stand-in said, "You learned fast or you got humiliated. That was the rule." He treated some co-stars with respect, but not all. If he didn't like someone, he'd make sure the whole set knew it. During Plaza Suite, insiders claimed he locked himself in his trailer for hours just to avoid a cast member he didn't get along with. Filming reportedly stopped until he decided to come out. No one dared challenge him. Even directors weren't safe. Matthau would argue about scripts, change lines on the spot, and storm off if he didn't like a scene. He once walked out in the middle of a rehearsal and told the director, "You don't know what the hell you're doing." None of this ever made the press. Studios kept it quiet because Matthau delivered hits, and fans only saw the grumpy charm he perfected on screen. The yelling, the insults, the tantrums, they stayed behind the camera. But ask anyone who worked on his sets for more than a week, and you'll hear the same thing. Walter Matthau wasn't acting like a jerk in his roles. He was just being himself. Dustin Hoffman's harassment era. For years, he was one of Hollywood's most respected actors. But in 2017, his name showed up in headlines for something else. Multiple women came forward with detailed accounts of harassment that dated back to the 1980s. The most widely reported story came from Anna Graham Hunter. She was just 17 when she interned on the set of the 1985 television adaptation of Death of a Salesman. In her account, Hoffman repeatedly made inappropriate comments, asked intrusive personal questions, and touched her in ways that crossed clear boundaries. She said she laughed it off at the time because she was scared and didn't know what else to do. "He was openly disrespectful," she wrote. "He did things you don't expect from a man twice your age and a star." Other women came forward with similar stories. Writer Wendy Riss said Hoffman propositioned her during a pitch meeting in the early 90s. When she declined, the meeting ended abruptly. A third woman, Catherine Rossiter, said Hoffman crossed physical boundaries with her regularly during their Broadway run of Death of a Salesman in 1983. She later said the trauma left her with years of anxiety. Hoffman responded to some of the allegations with vague statements, saying he respected women and didn't recall acting inappropriately. In other cases, he issued flat denials. But the number of women and the similarities in their stories made it hard to ignore. Before these reports, Hoffman had a clean public image. Serious actor, Oscar winner, family man. But the 2017 reckoning pulled back the curtain. The stories weren't anonymous. The women had names, faces, and nothing to gain by speaking out. He never faced formal charges, but his legacy now carries a stain. And for many of the people he worked with behind closed doors, that reputation was never spotless to begin with. Chevy Chase's racist, violent set behavior. By 2012, he was already a known headache in the industry, but things hit a new low on the set of Community. What started as minor tension turned into a full-blown disaster, with racism, violence, and offensive jokes all playing a part. It wasn't just one bad day. Chase regularly clashed with the show's creator, Dan Harmon, and took his frustration out on castmates. According to Donald Glover, who played Troy, Chase often made racist remarks between takes. One comment implied that Glover only got laughs because of his race. Glover didn't respond. He later said, "I saw it as Chevy trying to get under my skin, but I just wasn't having it." Joel McHale, who played the lead on the show, had his own issues with Chase. In an interview years later, McHale revealed that Chase injured him during a scene, pushing him too hard in a physical gag. He laughed it off at the time, but behind the scenes, the tension kept growing. Chase refused to rehearse, complained constantly, and walked off set when he didn't like the script. The worst came when Chase reportedly used a racial slur during a heated argument about his character's dialogue. Writers and producers were stunned. Chase later apologized, claiming he was trying to make a point about offensive writing, but no one was buying it. That incident marked the beginning of the end. Eventually, Harmon was fired after clashing with NBC leadership. Chase stayed on for another season but left before filming wrapped. The energy on set never fully recovered. Cast and crew said the atmosphere was toxic, largely because of Chase's behavior. This wasn't new. Long before Community, Chase had been called out for bullying and ego problems on Saturday Night Live, where he once slapped a fellow cast member backstage. But Community made the pattern undeniable and public. He didn't face any formal consequences. No lawsuits, no fines. But the damage was done. The charm had worn off. What was once seen as sharp wit started to look more like plain cruelty. And no one was laughing anymore. James Woods' underage allegations. He always had a sharp tongue and a long list of enemies. But in 2017, things turned serious. Actress Amber Tamblyn publicly accused him of trying to pick her up when she was just 16 years old. Tamblyn said she and a friend, also underage, were at a restaurant when Woods invited them to Las Vegas. When they mentioned their age, he allegedly said, "Even better." Tamblyn posted the story on Twitter after Woods mocked a gay coming-of-age film for featuring teen characters. She followed up with an open letter. "You were 60. I was 16. You knew better." Woods denied everything. He called the story a lie and claimed he'd never even met Tamblyn, but she stood by her account and said she had witnesses. Several other actresses chimed in, backing her tone even if not that specific story. The accusation struck a nerve because Woods had a long record of creepy behavior toward young women. Back in the early 2000s, Woods had a relationship with Ashley Madison, a woman 40 years younger than him. She was reportedly just 19 when they started dating. Years later, he was seen on red carpets with even younger dates, drawing raised eyebrows but little pushback from the industry at the time. Online, Woods didn't help his case. He became known for posting hateful, sometimes threatening tweets. In 2017, he tweeted an image attacking a gender non-conforming child and their parents. When called out, he doubled down. The backlash was fierce, but he refused to apologize. For years, he had been considered one of Hollywood's more intelligent, if difficult, actors. But his public behavior grew more aggressive, more political, and more disturbing as time went on. Studios started backing away. By the end of the 2010s, Woods wasn't just disliked, he was avoided. No formal charges were ever filed, but his name became shorthand for an aging actor who used fame as a shield for predatory behavior. And unlike his movies, real life didn't come with a script rewrite. The damage was done, and people were finally paying attention. Jared Leto's disturbing gifts. In 2016, Jared Leto's method acting crossed the line from committed to uncomfortable. While filming Suicide Squad, he stayed in character as the Joker, not just on camera, but off. What he did in the name of immersion left several cast and crew members disturbed. According to multiple co-stars, Leto sent out bizarre gifts to help everyone get into the mindset of a chaotic villain. These included adult items, strange props, and even a live rat reportedly delivered to Margot Robbie. Viola Davis confirmed that a pig carcass was sent to the cast during a rehearsal. Actor Adam Beach later said the crew was genuinely unsettled. During early interviews, Leto leaned into the reputation, saying he wanted to create an intense dynamic. But after the public started raising concerns, he changed his tune. He claimed many of the stories had been exaggerated and said it was all part of getting into character. Mostly fun and games, he called it. The people on set didn't seem to agree. It got to the point where Warner Brothers reportedly asked him to scale things back. Some cast members said they avoided interacting with him during production. What was meant to build tension for the role turned into real stress behind the scenes. This wasn't the only time Leto made headlines for off-screen behavior. Around the same period, complaints over workplace treatment were reportedly filed. And on social media, questions surfaced about his interactions with young fans, though no formal action was ever taken. In the end, Leto's version of the Joker barely appeared in the film, less than 10 minutes of screen time, but the off-camera stories stuck. Most of the cast has since spoken about it in cautious terms, some jokingly, others not at all. Leto says it was all in service of the role, but for the people on the receiving end, it didn't feel like performance. It felt personal and not in a good way. For many involved, the most unsettling part of the experience had nothing to do with what ended up on screen. Gerard Depardieu's assault conviction. He was once one of France's most celebrated actors. By 2025, he was a convicted offender. His fall wasn't sudden. It followed years of accusations that had been ignored, buried, or brushed off. That changed when two women spoke up about what happened on a film set in 2021. The production was Les Volets Verts. According to court documents, Depardieu was accused of touching two women, a set decorator and an assistant director, during filming. The women reported that he touched them without consent during routine interactions. Their complaints led to a formal investigation. At trial, more than 20 women came forward with similar stories. Some dated back decades. They described a pattern. Depardieu would use his fame to cross boundaries, often in professional settings. The court focused on the two most recent cases, both of which were backed by witness statements and internal reports from the set. In May 2025, Depardieu was found guilty. He received an 18-month suspended sentence, was fined, and added to France's National Registry of Offenders. The ruling was historic. It was one of the few times a major European film star faced legal consequences for this kind of behavior. The verdict sparked a national conversation in France. Depardieu had long been seen as untouchable. He starred in over 200 films and was a cultural icon. Presidents praised him. He held dual citizenship. Even when allegations surfaced in earlier years, they were dismissed as tabloid gossip. But the tide shifted. The testimonies were consistent. The stories lined up. And the excuses wore thin. During the trial, Depardieu denied wrongdoing and showed little remorse. His legal team argued that he was being targeted for his fame. The court didn't agree. Since the conviction, several film festivals quietly removed his name from promotions. Some projects were shelved. His defenders grew quiet. The industry that once protected him finally took a step back. He hasn't apologized. He hasn't stepped away. But for the first time in his career, the consequences caught up to him, and the public stopped pretending they didn't know. Steven Seagal's serial accusations. He built his brand as the tough guy who never lost a fight. But for decades, women behind the scenes told a very different story. Starting in the early 1990s, a steady stream of accusations followed him from co-stars, assistants, and women who auditioned for him in private. In 1991, actress Rayanne Malone said she was invited to Seagal's office to read for a role. Instead, she claimed he made inappropriate advances and locked the door behind her. Another woman, Christine Keeve, told a similar story from the same period. Both women said the studio discouraged them from speaking out. That same year, Warner Brothers reportedly paid a six-figure settlement to resolve another complaint involving Seagal's behavior during casting. Details were never made public, but the incident was widely reported at the time and quietly buried. In 1996, Jenny McCarthy said she showed up for an audition and was asked to undress, even though the scene didn't call for it. She refused. He told her she'd never work for him again. Years later, Juliana Margulies said Seagal brought a weapon to a hotel room during a late-night script meeting. She left immediately. The pattern didn't stop. In 2018, Portia de Rossi came forward with her own story. During an audition, she said Seagal unzipped his pants mid-meeting. Her agent later told her not to worry. He does that to everyone. By 2020, more than a dozen women had shared similar experiences. Some described unwanted touching. Others said he used his role as producer or lead actor to lure them into uncomfortable situations. Still, Seagal denied all wrongdoing and avoided legal action in the United States. He later moved to Russia, accepted citizenship, and became close to President Vladimir Putin. Since then, he's appeared less in Hollywood and more in foreign state media. Critics called it an escape from accountability. Seagal hasn't faced criminal charges, but the sheer volume of consistent, detailed stories makes it hard to dismiss. For years, he played the unbeatable action hero on screen. But off-screen, the damage he left behind caught up to his legacy, even if not the law.
Everyone loves to blame cancel culture, but some of these people should have been canceled a long time ago. You weren't overreacting. You were underinformed. Here are 10 disgusting celebrities the industry helped you fall for. Sean Diddy Combs' legal battles. He was once the king of hip-hop. Big hits, flashy lifestyle, and a massive fan base. But behind the fame, a string of serious accusations. In 2017, his personal chef said he harassed her and then fired her when she spoke up. They settled the case in 2019, no details shared. Fast forward to 2023. His ex-girlfriend Cassie filed a lawsuit claiming years of abuse. She said he hurt her, trafficked her, and even blew up Kid Cudi's car. That case also settled fast. Then came the bombshell. In May 2024, CNN dropped a hotel video from 2016. It showed Diddy grabbing and attacking Cassie. You could hear the internet gasp. Diddy responded with an apology, calling his actions inexcusable. But it didn't stop there. By September 2024, he was arrested on serious federal charges, including trafficking-related offenses, organized criminal activity, and unlawful transportation. He said he wasn't guilty and stayed locked up in Brooklyn, no bail. A month later, things exploded. Reports said over 100 people, men, women, even kids, were getting ready to file lawsuits against him. The number? Around 120. Some were underage. It was chaos. In March 2025, another charge dropped, forced labor. He was accused of making people work crazy hours using fear and pressure. Again, he said he was innocent. James Franco's hidden history. He always had a certain charm. He played weird, artsy characters, joked around in interviews, and came off as the cool, harmless guy. But behind that laid-back image was a mess the public didn't see until 2018. That year, 5 women accused him of misconduct. 2 were former students at his acting school, Studio 4, which he ran in Los Angeles and New York. They said Franco used his power to push young actresses into uncomfortable and explicit scenes. Some claimed he removed safety guards during nude scenes and blurred the line between acting and manipulation. Franco denied everything. He told Stephen Colbert on The Late Show that the claims were not accurate. But the internet wasn't convinced, and his silence on social media didn't help. By 2019, 2 women filed a lawsuit. They accused him of exploiting students under the pretense of education. According to court documents, students were led to believe they had a shot at roles in Franco's films if they agreed to intense scenes. Many said they felt pressured, especially in his so-called master class. In 2021, Franco settled the lawsuit for $2.2 million. He didn't admit guilt, but he did later speak out. On a podcast, he said he had struggled with compulsive behavior and acknowledged having inappropriate relationships with students. He called it wrong, but claimed it wasn't illegal. One of the most telling signs came from Seth Rogen. He and Franco were longtime collaborators, but in interviews, Rogen confirmed he hadn't worked with Franco in years and didn't plan to again. No shade, just a clean break. Since then, Franco's disappeared from the spotlight. He's taken on small indie projects, but nothing major. Most of Hollywood has kept its distance. Noel Clarke's collapse. In the UK, he was everywhere. He acted, directed, produced, and even won a BAFTA for Outstanding British Contribution to Cinema in 2021. But the celebration didn't last. Just weeks after that award, The Guardian published a massive investigation.
and everything changed. 20 women came forward. They accused Clark of inappropriate conduct, unwanted physical contact, intimidation, and demeaning language. Some said he secretly recorded audition scenes that involved sensitive content. Others claimed he'd touched them without consent or made cruel comments during shoots. Most of these women had worked with him professionally, on set, in casting, or through his company, Unstoppable Entertainment. Clark denied everything. He said he never broke the law and never acted inappropriately. But the accusations weren't vague. They came with names, dates, and detailed stories. The Guardian stood by the reporting, and BAFTA quickly suspended his award. ITV pulled the final episode of Viewpoint, his latest drama, right before it aired. Sky, who had long worked with him, cut ties immediately. What followed was a total shutdown of Clark's career. Projects vanished. Offers dried up. His name, once linked to representation and success, became toxic in the industry. In April 2025, Clark tried to fight back. He sued The Guardian for defamation. He said the article ruined his life and claimed the accusations were false and unfair. But the journalist, Lucy Osborne, testified that every story was vetted and the piece was never personal. She said it was about giving people a voice. The court hasn't ruled yet, but the damage is done. Clark hasn't booked a major role in years. His production company stopped operating. Even with the lawsuit, there's been no public comeback, no press tour, no support from the film world. What started as a career on fire crashed hard. And the worst part? It took 20 women stepping forward for anyone to actually listen. Morgan Wallen's never-ending apologies. He went from country music's rising star to public controversy machine, and it started long before most fans noticed. In May 2020, he was arrested in Nashville outside a bar. Charges: public intoxication and disorderly conduct. Nothing career-ending, but not a good look. Months later, he blew his shot at Saturday Night Live after video surfaced of him partying maskless during COVID restrictions. The show canceled his appearance just days before airtime. Then came February 2021. TMZ released home security footage showing Wallen yelling a racial slur after a night out. The backlash was immediate. Radio stations dropped him. His label suspended his contract. The Academy of Country Music barred him from that year's awards. He apologized publicly and promised to do better, but the damage was real. Despite the fallout, Wallen's album sales actually spiked. Some fans claimed cancel culture had gone too far. Others saw it differently, a clear example of someone being rewarded for bad behavior. Either way, Wallen stayed mostly quiet, reappearing months later in interviews saying he'd been doing a lot of soul-searching. But things got weird again. In October 2023, he was seen storming off stage mid-concert without explanation, and in April 2025, SNL brought him back, but not for long. He exited the building hours before the show, leaving producers scrambling. No official reason was given. Social media lit up with fan theories and jokes, but NBC stayed silent. Behind the scenes, sources claim Wallen has become difficult to work with. Others say he just isn't interested in the spotlight anymore. Either way, the pattern keeps repeating. Do something reckless, apologize, go quiet, then resurface like nothing happened. R. Kelly's crimes in plain sight. He was once untouchable. He ruled the charts, sold out arenas, and had megastars lining up to work with him. But behind the fame, a long, disturbing trail that the industry ignored for years. The first red flag? In 1994, Kelly, then 27, secretly married 15-year-old Aaliyah. Her age was faked on the marriage certificate. The union was annulled, but questions started swirling. In 2002, a video allegedly showing Kelly with an underage girl surfaced. He was charged with possessing illegal material involving a minor, but pleaded not guilty. The trial dragged on for years, and in 2008, he was acquitted. That same year, he released more music. Business as usual. In 2017, things exploded again. BuzzFeed published a report accusing Kelly of running a cult.
controlling young women and cutting them off from their families. His team denied it. But former associates started speaking out. They described rules, punishments, and disturbing levels of control. In 2019, the docuseries Surviving R. Kelly aired on Lifetime. It featured survivors, parents, and former employees detailing years of abuse. The reaction was massive. Protests broke out. Artists pulled collaborations. Radio stations dropped his music. Finally, people started listening. That same year, Kelly was arrested on multiple federal charges, including organized criminal activity and trafficking-related offenses. The details were chilling: coercion, intimidation, underage victims, and years of cover-ups. In 2021, he was convicted on all counts in New York. In 2022, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison. A separate Chicago trial in 2023 led to another 20-year sentence, 19 of which would be served at the same time. He's locked up for decades. Chris Brown's pattern of violence. His reputation never fully recovered after 2009, and that's because the problems didn't stop there. In February 2009, photos leaked of Rihanna's injuries after Brown assaulted her the night before the Grammys. The images were everywhere. Public opinion turned fast. Brown was arrested and later pled guilty to felony assault. He got probation, community labor, and court-ordered anger management. You'd think that would be rock bottom. It wasn't. In 2011, he allegedly smashed a window at Good Morning America after being asked about the Rihanna incident. The glass shattered near the street, but no charges were filed. His team blamed the media. He blamed haters. Then came the nightclub fights, parking lot scuffles, and assault allegations, year after year. In 2013, he punched a man outside a D.C. hotel. He was arrested and spent time in jail after being kicked out of rehab for anger issues. In 2016, a woman accused him of threatening her with a gun at his home. Police arrived with helicopters and a search warrant. Brown live-streamed part of it on Instagram. No charges were filed, but the spectacle was a media circus. That same year, his former girlfriend Karrueche Tran got a restraining order against him. She said he threatened to kill her. A judge later granted a 5-year order of protection. Then, in 2022, a woman filed a $20 million lawsuit alleging that Brown engaged in inappropriate conduct after giving her an unknown substance aboard a yacht. His team denied everything, and the case was later dropped, but the headlines kept piling up. One ongoing case involves fans claiming they were assaulted during a concert. Another woman says she was injured by Brown's security team outside a venue. Kevin Spacey's House of Cards collapsed fast. His fall was one of the fastest in Hollywood history. One moment he was the face of prestige drama. The next, completely erased from screens. It all started in October 2017. Actor Anthony Rapp told BuzzFeed News that Spacey made a move on him at a party when Rapp was just 14. Spacey's response? He said he didn't remember but apologized if it happened. Then he came out as gay in the same statement. That move drew backlash for trying to deflect with sexuality. What followed was a flood. More than 30 people came forward, crew members, actors, even journalists. They described similar patterns: unwanted touching, inappropriate comments, and abuse of power on set. Netflix cut ties instantly. House of Cards killed off his character and rewrote the entire final season. In 2018, he was charged in Massachusetts for allegedly groping an 18-year-old at a bar. The case fell apart when the accuser stopped cooperating, but the damage was done. He became uncastable. That same year, Spacey released a strange YouTube video in character as Frank Underwood. He looked straight into the camera, blurring fact and fiction, and said, "You wouldn't believe the worst without evidence, would you?" Fans called it creepy. Everyone else called it unhinged. In 2022, he went on trial in the UK, facing multiple allegations of inappropriate physical conduct. Several men accused him of unwanted advances going back years. In 2023, he was found not guilty, But the trial revealed a long pattern of questionable behavior behind closed doors. By 2025, Spacey's name is rarely mentioned in Hollywood. No new projects, no cameos, no redemption arc. Harvey Weinstein's power and silence. He was Hollywood's ultimate power broker. If you wanted an Oscar, you probably worked with him. He ran Miramax, produced critical hits like Pulp Fiction and Shakespeare in Love, and made or broke careers. For decades, his power went unchecked, and people stayed silent. That all ended in October 2017. The New York Times published a detailed article accusing Weinstein was accused of long-term misconduct and quietly settling complaints over the years. Within days, The New Yorker followed with its own expose, including on-record accounts of coercive behavior and serious violations. Soon, over 80 women came forward: actresses, assistants, models, interns. Big names like Gwyneth Paltrow, Salma Hayek, and Lupita Nyong'o added their voices. Many said he lured them to hotel rooms under the guise of meetings, then assaulted or harassed them. Weinstein denied most of it but was fired from the Weinstein Company almost immediately. The Academy expelled him. BAFTA suspended his membership. The Screen Actors Guild removed him. Hollywood, which once protected him, now ran for cover. The details were horrifying. NDAs were used to buy silence. Assistants were allegedly made to help set up his meetings. For years, his behavior was whispered about but never challenged, until it couldn't be ignored. In 2020, a jury in New York convicted Weinstein on charges related to forcible misconduct and non-consensual acts. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison. In 2022, Los Angeles charged him again. That trial led to another conviction in 2023, adding 16 more years. He'll be over 90 before he's eligible for release, if he lives that long. Weinstein's fall also triggered something bigger. The number sign Me Too movement exploded into mainstream culture. Other powerful men, directors, executives, actors, were suddenly held accountable. He wasn't just a man who abused power. He was the system, protected by it, enabled by it, and finally undone by the voices that refused to stay quiet. He built an empire on silence, fear, and control. But in the end, he couldn't silence everyone. D. Koch's secret double life. In Singapore, D. Koch was a household name. He built a loyal audience on YouTube, worked as a popular radio DJ, and made brand deals left and right. His content was funny, sharp, and made to feel personal. That's what made the 2020 allegations so shocking. In August of that year, multiple young men came forward online. They accused D. Koch of sending inappropriate messages, engaging in manipulative behavior, and offering money in exchange for explicit interactions. Screenshots and voice messages quickly spread across social media. Several of the accusers were underage at the time of contact. At first, D. Koch denied the claims. He said the messages were fake or taken out of context. But then more proof appeared. Long message threads, audio recordings, and consistent patterns. The evidence was overwhelming. His radio station, Power 98, suspended him. Sponsors disappeared. His social media presence went silent. In 2021, authorities formally charged him with the exploitation of a minor and the production of obscene films. In court, it came out that he had stored explicit videos on his phone. He had arranged to meet teenage boys and pressured them online. These weren't just allegations anymore, they were facts backed by a criminal investigation. In August 2022, D. Koch pled guilty. He received 32 weeks in jail. During sentencing, the judge said he abused his position of influence and acted with clear intent. After his release, he didn't return to content creation. No apologies, no comeback video, just total silence. What makes his story so disturbing is how carefully he built his image. He marketed himself as trustworthy, even progressive, someone young fans could relate to.
Meanwhile, behind the screen, he was using that trust to manipulate people too scared to speak up. Mr. Beast's image under fire. He was seen as the internet's good guy. Mr. Beast, aka Jimmy Donaldson, gave away houses, paid for surgeries, and helped thousands of people. His videos felt positive, clean, and drama-free. But in late 2024, things changed. A group of contestants from his big reality show Beast Games filed a lawsuit. They said the filming conditions were rough and the work environment felt toxic. Some claimed crew members were rude, and others said they didn't feel safe on set. Mr. Beast wasn't accused directly, but the lawsuit named his company and Amazon. An investigation followed. By November 2024, the results were public. No proof was found that Mr. Beast knew about any serious misconduct. But the report confirmed there were problems. Some staff had crossed the line. A few people were fired. Mr. Beast's team added new rules, set up a hotline, and brought in better managers. Fans had mixed reactions. Some said he couldn't control everything. Others thought he should have responded more clearly. Then people online started digging. They pointed out how some friends in older videos had quietly disappeared. Some remembered challenges that seemed too intense. A few clips, once funny, now felt awkward. Mr. Beast stayed quiet. No big post, no full statement. Just a quick mention that he was working on things behind the scenes. He kept uploading. Views stayed high. But something felt different. Comments got sharper. Viewers asked more questions. The shine wasn't gone, but it wasn't untouchable anymore. For years, Mr. Beast built a name on trust, kindness, and massive giving. That's why this hit harder. It wasn't one huge scandal. It was the shift in how people saw him. He's still huge, still respected, but fans are watching more closely now. And when your whole brand is about doing the right thing, people expect you to handle the tough stuff the same way. While millions of people were engrossed in the incredible movies and shows produced by the industry, both in their homes and cinemas, they remained oblivious to the darkness lurking within. Beyond the glamour and talent that Hollywood exuded, there was an underworld that was very different from what was being shown in the media. From rumors of murders to the mistreatment of actors and numerous atrocities that remained buried and far away from the public eyes, Hollywood was proved to be a dark and chaotic place. Well, let's just say nothing is hidden under the sun, because some of these dark and disgusting things that happened in the industry have now been confirmed to be true. The horrific fake film shoot. Anyone who knew about the film studio MGM knew that they were notorious for their dark deeds and would do almost anything to make a scandal disappear, and in order to protect their own. They had the money, the power, and the fixers, but when a biographer, David Sten, began to investigate them, he uncovered some secrets that they kept buried for years. One of these was what happened to a 20-year-old dancer named Patricia Douglas at a 1937 MGM party. According to David Sten, MGM did everything in their power to suppress the scandal when it erupted. They even went as far as hiding evidence and doing all they could to silence the victim, but it seems like her innocence screamed louder than their efforts, and soon enough their deeds were brought to the light. Although MGM was successful at burying the story back in the 1930s, David Sten found some evidence that proved that Patricia's story was real. She wasn't the young wannabe star trying to take down a powerful studio. She was a young, vulnerable girl whose innocence was taken away at an MGM party. In the words of the biographer, I managed to find old newspaper coverage, previously unseen photos, damning studio documentation, long-forgotten legal records, privately shot cinematographic evidence hidden in an MGM film vault, and, most amazing, Patricia Douglas herself. After 65 years of silence, she was finally able to tell her side of the story. According to Patricia Douglas, that incident completely broke her and turned her life upside down. Before that day, she was living a normal life and was already a part of the entertainment industry. Her love for dancing opened her up to opportunities, and at the age of 15, she had already appeared in 2 classics. Her mother was doing well financially, so she didn't need to work. She only took on a few jobs because she enjoyed it and wanted to keep herself busy.
This chestnut-haired lady with porcelain skin would later get a casting call on the 2nd of May, 1937 that changed her life. She had no idea that this call was not what she thought it was, and although she hesitated for a while, she finally said yes. Looking back on that day, Patricia regrets saying yes to that call. In her words, "They never mentioned it was for a party, ever. I wouldn't have gone. Oh God, I wouldn't have gone." Although she and hundreds of other girls were invited for this so-called shoot, they would soon discover that this was no film shoot. It was a party that Louis B. Mayer had, organized to celebrate his salesman for a job well done, but this was no ordinary party. It was going to an alcohol-fueled party where all manner of atrocities would happen. The studio had become the greatest studio in Hollywood, and they bagged distribution deals that will keep them on top for several years. This party is their way of celebrating. Patricia Douglas was one out of the 120 young female dancers that received the casting call. It will surprise you to know that a well-known casting director made these calls so the girls had no idea what was about to happen. They were supposed to be dressed in fitted cowgirl outfits, and as soon as they got to the studio, they were transported to an unknown location for this party. On getting there, Patricia saw over 300 men partying, smoking, and taking all kinds of substances. She didn't see cameras, a crew, or lights. Patricia immediately started to feel uncomfortable, as she had never had any sexual encounter before. She certainly didn't want to be in such a wild party. Sadly, there was no way any of the girls could escape. As the party went on, a particular salesman called David Rose began to admire Patricia. He pretended to want to teach her a dance step, and before she knew it, he and other friends held her down and poured liquor down her throat. Soon enough, Patricia began to feel sick, and when she went outside to get some air, David Ross dragged her to the parking lot and took advantage of her in one of the cars. Interestingly, a parking attendant witnessed the whole thing, but he later denied. Patricia did not keep quiet about what happened. She told her mother about it, and they were able to hire an attorney, but every legal step she took proved futile. No one believed her. One can only imagine how many other girls went through a similar experience that night. Patricia, the only person who was bold enough to speak up, was shut down and called a liar by MGM. With their connections, money, and power, they were able to shut the case down. Among the evidence that was later found was a letter from publisher William Randolph Hearst to Louis B. Mayer saying, "Shut this down. Make her stop." Do you realize how damaging this is to the whole movie picture industry? With the help of biographer David Sten, she was able to document what happened to her in the documentary titled Girl 27 before she passed on. The director with weird sexual preferences. After several decades of whining, dining, and having wild sexual encounters with celebrities, Scotty Bowers published a book titled Full Service: My Adventures in Hollywood and the Secret Sex Lives of the Stars. Bowers, who was said to have been a go-to guy for setting up all manner of trysts for some of Hollywood's most famous stars, decided to pen down all the escapes that these stars were involved in. While some of his celebrity clients were closeted gays and lesbian, other clients liked things that were weird and freaky. The revelations she made about Charles Laughton left everyone in shock. To the rest of the world, Charles Laughton was a brilliant director. He was a highly respected and influential figure in the film industry. Charles Laughton was an English stage and film actor as well as a director. Truth be told, his talent was recognized early in his career, and he gained fame for his versatility as an actor. He excelled in portraying a wide range of characters, from dramatic to comedic roles. Most people who were entertained by his works revered him. Some of his most notable performances include his portrayal of the hunchbacked bell ringer Quasimodo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame in 1939, Captain Bligh in Mutiny on the Bounty in 1935, and his chilling role as the tyrannical barrister in Witness for the Prosecution in 1957. Everyone saw him as a talented man who was laser-focused on his career, but no one knew the secrets he was keeping from the world. In addition to his acting prowess, Laughton also ventured into directing, where he demonstrated a keen eye for storytelling and visual composition. His directorial debut was with the film The Night of the Hunter in 1955, which has since been recognized as a classic of American cinema despite its initial commercial failure. Laughton's impact on the film industry was profound, and he was highly respected by his peers. Throughout his career, he received numerous accolades, including an Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in The Private Life of Henry VIII in 1933. Apparently, when he was achieving all these, he was busy behind closed doors doing things that would have shocked his fans. According to Bowers, Charles's secret sexual activities were very different from that of his celebrity friends. He said Charles was into scat proclivities. Bowers revealed that Charles liked it when his sexual partners released on him, and on some occasions, he spread these substances on a sandwich and ate it. Bowers didn't judge this act, as he was an open-minded person who believed that people should do whatever they wanted, and in his words, "The practice certainly didn't turn me on, but it was patently clear that it was regarded as a normal and acceptable part of sexual activity by its devotees, with Charles Laughton being one of them and Ty Power another. So who was I to judge? To each his own." Who would have thought that this talented man was involved in such sexual acts behind closed doors? Although there were already rumors about what he was involved in, Bowers' book confirmed the rumors and went into detail about what this celebrated director was doing behind closed doors. Charlie Chaplin and underage girls. He was a highly successful actor who was well respected in the industry. He was known to have inspired many other actors, but when rumors began to circulate about his preference in women, a lot of people lost respect for him. They simply couldn't believe it. Charlie Chaplin, a towering figure in the world of comedy, mesmerized audiences with his timeless humor and poignant performances on the silver screen. Yet, behind the laughter, his personal life was shrouded in controversy, particularly concerning his romantic entanglements. Soon enough, his secret preferences when it came to women became a subject of both fascination and scrutiny. Truth be told, Chaplin's predilection for marrying significantly younger women was evident throughout his life. His first marriage to 16-year-old Mildred Harris at the age of 29 set a pattern that would repeat itself. Despite the considerable age gap, Chaplin seemed drawn to youthful exuberance and innocence. However, his marriages were not devoid of tumult. Harris and Chaplin's union dissolved after 2 years. It would surprise you to know that he went on to date and marry yet another girl that was younger than him. The pattern persisted with Chaplin's subsequent marriages. At 35, he wed 16-year-old Lita Gray, embarking on a controversial journey that raised eyebrows even in the permissive circles of Hollywood. Their marriage was mired in scandal, with Gray alleging that she was coerced into matrimony due to her pregnancy with Chaplin's child. The marriage ultimately ended in a highly publicized divorce, amplifying the whispers surrounding Chaplin's romantic exploits. People found it difficult to reconcile the man he was in Hollywood to the man that was getting married to underage girls. In 1932, Chaplin found himself entangled with 22-year-old Paulette Goddard, who later revealed that she had initially misrepresented her age, claiming to be 17 when they first met. Despite the revelation, Chaplin pursued the relationship, culminating in marriage when Goddard was 26 and he was 47. Their union endured for 6 years, characterized by both moments of bliss and strain, emblematic of Chaplin's tumultuous romantic life. However, it was Chaplin's fourth and final marriage that garnered the most attention and controversy. At the age of 54, he wed 18-year-old Una O'Neill, the daughter of esteemed playwright Eugene O'Neill. This union, though met with incredulity and raised eyebrows, endured the test of time, remaining intact until Chaplin's passing. O'Neill's youthfulness and Chaplin's status as a renowned artist of his era magnified the intrigue surrounding their relationship. Chaplin's preference for younger women, coupled with the circumstances of his marriages, fueled speculation and gossip within the industry. While some viewed his actions as indicative of a romantic spirit unbound by societal norms, others condemned his behavior as exploitative and predatory. The allegations against Chaplin ranged from accusations of manipulation to outright abuse, with his choices seemingly confirming the suspicions harbored by his detractors. There were even rumors that he fled to a different country at a certain point in time in order to avoid certain statutory laws. It seemed like he couldn't help himself, but most people who heard about it were disappointed. They couldn't believe that such a respected man was involved in such. However, despite the condemnation he got from others, he didn't hide the fact that he preferred underage girls. She adopted her own child. Before he became a Hollywood star, it was said that Clark Gable was friends with some questionable people. Perhaps this was why he reached out to a fixer when he discovered that he got a young actress pregnant. What was done after that forever traumatized the child and made her grow up believing that she didn't have parents. If anyone was the epitome of Hollywood masculinity, it was Clark Gable. This charming, leading man made hearts swoon across the globe. He was the kind of guy you'd imagine tipping his hat as he sauntered into a room exuding confidence. And in 1934, he was smack dab in the middle of one heck of a scandal that involved a young actress named Loretta Young. She was a rising starlet with doe eyes and a smile that could light up the silver screen. At just 22, she was already making waves in Hollywood, capturing hearts with her talent and beauty. But little did anyone know she was about to become entangled in a scandalous affair with none other than the dashing Clark Gable. A 34-year-old Gable, already married, diving headfirst into a clandestine romance with the much younger Loretta Young. Their flirtation soon turned into a scandalous affair, and to complicate matters further, Young became pregnant. It was the kind of situation that could spell disaster for both their careers and reputations. Some reports claim that Gable actually forced himself on the actress and that the sexual activities between them were not consensual. When Clark Gable realized how messy the situation was, he reached out to the one person that could fix it, Eddie Mannix, a fixer with connections deep in the heart of Hollywood. He wasn't just any friend to Gable, he was the kind of friend who knew how to clean up messes, no matter how messy they were. Mannix's solution was as ingenious as it was morally dubious. He orchestrated a plan for Young to fake adopt her own child, effectively concealing the scandal of being an unwed mother. It was a move straight out of the Hollywood playbook. Young, determined to protect her child from judgment, went along with Mannix's plan, confiding only in the inner circles of Hollywood's elite. And so Judy, as she would later be named, grew up believing that Loretta Young adopted her. But as Judy grew older, the truth became harder to conceal. It was difficult to ignore the resemblance between Judy and Clark Gable. Soon enough, rumors began to spread, and people started asking questions. Years passed, but secrets have a way of coming to light. On Judy's wedding day, she confronted her mother, demanding to know the truth, and in a moment filled with emotions and regret, Young finally revealed the truth to her daughter. Judy herself later confirmed the truth in her autobiography, Uncommon Knowledge, laying bare the secrets that had been buried for so long. In the end, Eddie Mannix's solution may have spared his friend Clark Gable from immediate scandal, but it couldn't shield him from the consequences of his actions forever. This decision certainly did not spare Judy from the trauma of growing up without parents. Why Mary Nolan had 15 abdominal surgeries. If you have ever heard about Hollywood fixers, then the name Eddie Mannix certainly rings a bell. He was the one who was responsible for making most of MGM Studios' scandals disappear. Whenever something occurred and it could damage the image of the studio, he would go behind the scenes and clean up the mess before the public got to know about it. However, in July 1935, he was not doing someone else's dirty laundry. The scandal was right at his doorstep. His former lover had publicly accused him of maltreating her and ruining her life. He denied all the allegations, but when her friends and family began to speak up about what he did to her, things got a little complicated and he had to find a solution and find it fast. Mary Nolan, Mannix's ex-lover, was a well-known actress in the 1920s. Truth be told, life and career were marked by both successes and personal struggles. Nolan began her career as a Ziegfeld Follies showgirl before transitioning to silent films. She quickly gained attention for her striking beauty and talent on screen. Mary Nolan, initially performing under the name Imogen Robertson in Germany, began her film career there with Verborgene Gluten in 1925, followed by Die Feuertanzerin, which garnered her favorable reviews and a contract offer from Universum Film AG. She worked steadily in Germany until 1927, declining offers from Hollywood producers until Joseph M. Schenck of United Artists convinced her to return to the United States. Upon her return, Nolan faced scrutiny from the press and women's groups due to her past scandal, prompting United Artists to suggest a name change to Mary Nolan. She made 2 films with United Artists before joining Universal Pictures in August 1927, where she received good reviews for her role in Good Morning Judge. In the same year, she was said to have been involved in a relationship with Eddie Mannix, who allegedly used his connections to help boost her career. Mannix was married at the time, so they kept their affair a secret for as long as they could. Nolan's career received a significant boost when she was loaned to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer for West of Zanzibar in 1928, starring alongside Lon Chaney and Lionel Barrymore. The film was a hit, as was her subsequent loan to MGM for Desert Nights in 1929, opposite John Gilbert, further solidifying her status in Hollywood. However, Mannix and Nolan's affair ended abruptly in 1929. While no one knows for sure why the affair ended, it was said that the actress became an emotional wreck in the following years. Her career began to decline rapidly, and she was said to have displayed erratic behavior on sets. After a long battle with substance abuse and financial problems, her life was in shambles. It was clear that there was a lot of pain buried deep within her, but no one knew what was causing it. It was in 1935 that Mary Nolan decided to open up about what she went through in the hands of Eddie Mannix. Initially, it seemed like a publicity stunt by a desperate actress, but as time went on, people began to see that her claims were not far-fetched from what others had accused Mannix of. According to her, she lived with him in the Ambassador Hotel from the year 1927 to 1931, and they were actively in an affair at the time. As time went on, he began to treat her badly and would even go as far as hitting her and inflicting wounds on her body. She also claimed that he was responsible for the decline of her career and that he allegedly used his influence to ruin her career at a certain point. However, the most shocking part of her story was on the day he attacked her and hit her abdominal area so badly that she had to be hospitalized. The damages he caused were so severe that she had to undergo over 15 surgeries in order to survive. After she sued him, he denied all she had said and claimed that she was using the story to gain fame and sympathy from the public. But despite his claims, Mary Nolan had a solid army of witnesses behind her. Her friends and family revealed he maltreated her during the time that they were together. He also allegedly forced her to terminate multiple pregnancies, and there were times when she had to go on set with bruises because of how badly he hit her. As expected, Mannix did everything in his power to bury the story. It was said that he sent a private detective to her house to threaten her, and this was what made her drop the lawsuit. While there was no concrete evidence, anyone who heard about Mannix's heinous crimes knew that there was at least an atom in Mary's story. In the end, Mannix won and was able to bury a story that could have potentially ruined his image and career.
In 1921, a young actress named Virginia Rappe died under mysterious circumstances at a party hosted by silent film star Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle. This controversy was just the beginning. For over a century, Hollywood has been a breeding ground for disturbing rumors that turned out to be all too real. Today we're pulling back the curtain on Tinseltown's darkest truths, the casting couch, early Hollywood's open secret. The term casting couch emerged in the 1920s, referring to a troubling practice where influential men took advantage of aspiring actors for inappropriate favors in exchange for roles. Louis B. Mayer, co-founder of MGM Studios, was notorious for this behavior. Mayer held private meetings with young actresses, often leading to uncomfortable situations. In 1935, dancer Patricia Douglas attended an MGM party where she was reportedly a victim of misconduct by a studio salesman. Despite filing charges, the case was quickly buried. Joan Crawford, who started her career in the 1920s, spoke about her experiences years later. "I never slept with a man I didn't want to. No one ever made me do anything I didn't want to do." However, her words hinted at the pressures faced by many actresses. Marilyn Monroe once said, "Hollywood is a place where they'll pay you $1,000 for a kiss and 50 cents for your soul." This quote reflects the industry's moral bankruptcy. In 1937, child star Shirley Temple, then 9 years old, was inappropriately approached by MGM producer Arthur Freed. When she laughed at him, Freed reportedly exposed himself. Temple's mother quickly removed her from the situation. The silent film era saw its share of scandals too. The Fatty Arbuckle case in 1921 shocked the nation when actress Virginia Rappe died after a party at his hotel.
Though Arbuckle was eventually acquitted, the incident shed light on Hollywood's darker side. By the 1930s, the Hays Code was introduced to clean up Hollywood's image. However, behind closed doors, the exploitation continued. Judy Garland's studio-enforced diet pills. Her road to stardom was paved with studio control and dangerous health practices. MGM signed Garland at 13 in 1935. From the start, studio head Louis B. Mayer criticized her weight, calling her "my little hunchback." By 1938, during the filming of Love Finds Andy Hardy, 16-year-old Garland was put on a strict diet. Studio doctors prescribed Benzedrine and amphetamine for weight loss and seconal barbiturate to help her sleep. This dangerous cocktail kick-started a lifelong struggle with addiction. Garland's daily meal often consisted of just soup, black coffee, and 80 cigarettes, along with the prescribed pills. During the filming of The Wizard of Oz in 1939, the studio wanted her to lose more weight. She was 17 and weighed 94 pounds. In 1943, while filming Girl Crazy, Garland collapsed on set multiple times due to exhaustion and malnutrition. The studio's response was to give her a brief rest before pushing her back to work. Garland later recalled, "They had us working days and nights on end. They'd give us pills to keep us on our feet long after we were exhausted. Then they'd take us to the studio hospital and knock us out with sleeping pills." By 1947, Garland's health had deteriorated significantly. She attempted to end herself on the set of The Pirate. Despite this, MGM continued to push her, leading to her suspension in 1948 due to erratic behavior caused by addiction. "I was in the studio system for 15 years and I thought they were going to kill me," Garland said in a 1967 interview. She suffered numerous breakdowns and was admitted to sanitariums multiple times throughout her career. The long-term effects of this studio-enforced regimen were devastating. Garland struggled with addiction and health issues for the rest of her life. She died in 1969 at age 47 from an accidental overdose, a tragic end tied directly to the abusive practices she endured in her youth. Alfred Hitchcock's obsession with Tippi Hedren. His obsession with Tippi Hedren during the early 1960s revealed a dark side to the famed director. Hedren, a model-turned-actress, was discovered by Hitchcock in a TV commercial in 1961. He immediately signed her to a 7-year contract. Hedren's first role was in The Birds, 1963. During filming, Hitchcock's behavior became increasingly controlling. He dictated her wardrobe off-set and forbade her from socializing with the cast and crew. Hedren later stated, "Every time I'd be talking with a male member of the cast or crew, my next exchange with Hitchcock would be icy." The most harrowing incident occurred during the filming of the attic scene. Hedren was told mechanical birds would be used. Instead, live birds were thrown at her for 5 days straight. She suffered cuts, exhaustion, and a nervous breakdown. When a bird nearly pecked her eye, she snapped, "I think you got your scene, Mr. Hitchcock." In 1964, during the production of Marnie, Hitchcock's obsession intensified. He had a mask of Hedren's face made for his personal use and installed a secret door between his office and her dressing room. Hedren recounted a disturbing incident in her trailer. "He touched me inappropriately. It was uncomfortable and deeply unsettling. The harder I fought him, the more aggressive he became." After Hedren refused his advances, Hitchcock threatened to ruin her career. True to his word, he kept her under contract for 2 years without work, effectively stalling her career. Hitchcock's behavior wasn't limited to Hedren. Actress Diane Baker, who co-starred in Marnie, observed, "I saw Hitchcock verbally abuse Tippi and I was shocked." In 1966, Hedren finally broke free from her contract with Hitchcock. However, the director's influence in Hollywood made it difficult for her to find work. She later said, "He ruined my career, but he didn't ruin my life." Hedren kept silent about these experiences for decades, only speaking out in detail in her 2016 memoir, Tippi. Her story shed light on the abuse of power that was all too common in Hollywood during that era. Roman Polanski's assault case. On March 10, 1977, film director Roman Polanski, then 43, was arrested in Los Angeles. The charge, drugging and misconduct of a 13-year-old girl, Samantha Gailey, now Guymer. The incident occurred at actor Jack Nicholson's home during a photo shoot for French Vogue. According to court documents, Polanski gave Gailey champagne and part of a Quaalude. He then allegedly continued with inappropriate actions despite her objections. Gailey later testified, "I was mostly just on and off saying, 'No, stop,' but I was afraid." Polanski faced legal charges on multiple counts related to inappropriate conduct, including allegations involving the use of a controlled substance and misconduct with a minor. He initially pleaded not guilty to all charges, but later accepted a plea bargain. On August 8, 1977, Polanski pleaded guilty to unlawful activity with a minor. Per the plea deal, the probation report recommended probation. However, on the day of sentencing, February 1, 1978, Polanski fled to France. He had learned that the judge, Lawrence J. Rittenband, planned to sentence him to prison and subsequent deportation. France refused to extradite Polanski due to its limited extradition treaty with the U.S. Polanski continued his film career in Europe, even winning an Oscar for The Pianist in 2003, which he couldn't collect in person. In 2009, Polanski was arrested in Switzerland at the request of U.S. authorities. He spent 67 days in custody before being released and returning to France. Guymer, the victim, has since stated she forgives Polanski and believes the case should be dropped. In a 2013 interview, she said, "I'm not going to carry a bunch of resentment, and much worse things happen to people." Despite this, attempts to resolve the case have been unsuccessful. In 2017, Polanski's offer to return to the U.S. for time served was rejected by L.A. County Superior Court Judge Scott Gordon. As of 2024, Polanski remains a fugitive from the U.S. justice system. Rob Lowe's tape scandal. In July 1988, 24-year-old actor Rob Lowe became embroiled in a controversy that nearly derailed his career. The incident occurred during the Democratic National Convention in Atlanta, where Lowe was supporting presidential candidate Michael Dukakis. On the night of July 17th, Lowe met two young women at a bar and brought them back to his hotel room. Unbeknownst to Lowe, one of the women, 16-year-old Jan Parsons, was underage. The encounter was videotaped, creating what would become one of Hollywood's first celebrity intimacy tape controversies. The tape surfaced months later when Parsons' mother found it and reported it to the authorities. On February 24, 1989, the story broke in the media, causing immediate shockwaves in Hollywood and beyond. Lowe initially denied any wrongdoing, claiming he didn't know Parsons was underage. He stated, "I didn't ask for ID going into a club. It was Atlanta, the home of Coca-Cola, not the home of underage girls." The controversy had severe consequences for Lowe's career. He was dropped from several film projects and lost numerous endorsement deals. His appearance at the 1989 Academy Awards was met with open hostility from some attendees. Legal ramifications followed. Lowe faced criminal charges for misconduct with a minor and distributing explicit material. To avoid prosecution, he agreed to perform 20 hours of community service in his home state of Ohio. The incident also led to a civil lawsuit from Parsons' family, which was settled out of court for an undisclosed sum. As part of the settlement, Lowe was required to publicly apologize. In the years following the scandal, Lowe worked to rebuild his career and reputation. He entered rehab for alcohol addiction in 1990, a move he credits with helping him turn his life around. Woody Allen's relationship with Soon-Yi Previn. In January 1992, Mia Farrow discovered unclothed photos of her adopted daughter, Soon-Yi Previn, in Woody Allen's apartment. Allen, then 56, had been in a relationship with Farrow for 12 years. Soon-Yi was 21 at the time and had been adopted by Farrow and her ex-husband Andre Previn years earlier. The discovery sent shockwaves through Hollywood and the public. Allen confirmed the relationship in August 1992, stating, "I'm thrilled." The admission came amid a bitter custody battle between Allen and Farrow over their 3 children. Allen's film Husbands and Wives, released in September 1992, became unintentionally controversial due to its plot similarities to the real-life scandal. The film's premiere was marked by protests and media frenzy. In 1993, a judge in the custody case called Alan's behavior with Soon-Yi grossly inappropriate. The court denied Alan visitation rights with his daughter Dylan and limited contact with his son Satchel, now Ronan Farrow. Despite the controversy, Alan and Soon-Yi married in Venice on December 23, 1997. Alan was 62, Soon-Yi 27. The ceremony was small, with only a handful of guests present. In a rare 2015 interview with NPR, Alan addressed the relationship's beginnings. "I was paternal. She responded to someone paternal." This statement further fueled critics who found the relationship's power dynamics disturbing. The scandal significantly impacted Alan's career. Several actors, including Greta Gerwig and Timothée Chalamet, later expressed regret for working with him. Amazon Studios terminated a 4-picture deal with Alan in 2019, citing renewed allegations of misconduct by Dylan Farrow. As of 2024, Alan and Soon-Yi remain married and have 2 adopted daughters. The controversy continues to spark debates about power, consent, and morality in Hollywood relationships. R. Kelly's illegal marriage to Aaliyah. On August 31, 1994, R&B singer R. Kelly, then 27, illegally married his 15-year-old protégée Aaliyah in a secret ceremony in Rosemont, Illinois. The marriage certificate falsely listed Aaliyah's age as 18. Kelly had met Aaliyah 3 years earlier when she was 12. He became her mentor, producer, and lead songwriter for her debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, released in May 1994. The album's title now seems disturbingly prophetic. Vibe magazine published a copy of the marriage certificate in December 1994. The revelation sparked immediate controversy. Aaliyah's family was reportedly furious and moved quickly to have the marriage annulled in February 1995. Kelly's former tour manager, Demetrius Smith, later admitted to obtaining a fake ID for Aaliyah. In the 2019 documentary Surviving R. Kelly, Smith stated, "I was in the room when they got married. I'm not proud of that." Both Kelly and Aaliyah initially denied the marriage. In a 1994 interview, Aaliyah said, "I'm not married. That's all there is to it." She maintained this stance until she died in a plane crash in 2001. The illegal marriage came to light again during Kelly's 2019 arrest on federal charges. Prosecutors alleged Kelly bribed a government official in Illinois to create a fake ID for Aaliyah. In 2021, during Kelly's exploitation trial, a witness testified that Kelly married Aaliyah because he believed she was pregnant with his child. The marriage would have protected Kelly from charges. Kelly was ultimately convicted on all 9 counts against him, including racketeering and exploitation. The illegal marriage to Aaliyah was a key part of the prosecution's case. Harvey Weinstein's decades of serious misconduct. On October 5, 2017, the New York Times published an exposé detailing nearly 3 decades of coercion allegations against Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. The article, by Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey, cited interviews with numerous women in the film industry. Among the first accusers were actress Ashley Judd and former Weinstein employee Laura Madden. Judd recounted a 1997 incident where Weinstein invited her to his hotel room and asked for a massage. Madden described similar experiences in the early 1990s. The article revealed that Weinstein had reached at least 8 settlements with women who accused him of unwanted physical contact and advances. These settlements, dating back to 1990, were often accompanied by non-disclosure agreements. 5 days after the Times article, The New Yorker published Ronan Farrow's investigation, which included 13 more women's accounts of alleged abuse by Weinstein. 3 women accused Weinstein of SA. Actress Rose McGowan, who had alluded to her experience for years, publicly accused Weinstein of serious misconduct on October 12, 2017. She stated she was paid $100,000 in 1997 to sign a non-disclosure agreement. By October 31st, over 80 women had come forward with allegations against Weinstein. The list included high-profile actresses like Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelina Jolie, and Salma Hayek. Weinstein was dismissed from the Weinstein Company on October 8, 2017. He was later arrested and charged in New York on May 25, 2018, for serious misconduct. On February 24, 2020, Weinstein was found guilty of 2 serious offenses and sentenced to 23 years in prison. Bill Cosby's serial assaults. For decades, Bill Cosby was known as America's dad, beloved for his role on The Cosby Show. However, beneath this wholesome image lurked a serial predator whose crimes spanned half a century. The first public accusation against Cosby came in 2005 when Andrea Constand filed a lawsuit alleging he drugged and acted inappropriately toward her in 2004. During the case, 13 other women came forward with similar stories. The suit was settled out of court in 2006 for $338 million. Despite these allegations, Cosby's career continued largely unaffected until October 16, 2014. During a stand-up performance in Philadelphia, comedian Hannibal Buress seriously referred to Cosby, rekindling public interest in the allegations against him. In the following months, dozens of women came forward with stories of coercion dating back to the 1960s. Many described a similar pattern. Cosby would offer them drinks, which were allegedly drugged, and then essay them while they were incapacitated. On December 30, 2015, Cosby was arrested and charged with 3 counts of aggravated indecent moves against Andrea Constand. This was the first criminal case against Cosby, as most other allegations fell outside the statute of limitations. Cosby's first trial in 2017 ended in a mistrial due to a hung jury. However, in a retrial on April 26, 2018, Cosby was found guilty on all 3 counts. On September 25, 2018, he was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in state prison. During the trial, 5 other women testified about their experiences with Cosby, establishing a pattern of behavior. One of these women, Janice Dickinson, testified that Cosby coerced her in 1982 after giving her a pill. Cosby's conviction was overturned by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court on June 30, 2021, due to a violation of his due process rights. He was released from prison the same day, having served nearly 3 years. Kevin Spacey's predatory behavior. On October 29, 2017, actor Anthony Rapp alleged that Kevin Spacey made a misappropriate advance toward him in 1986, when Rapp was 14 and Spacey was 26. This accusation, published in a BuzzFeed article, marked the beginning of Spacey's downfall. Spacey responded on Twitter, claiming no memory of the incident, but offering an apology. In the same statement, he came out as gay, a move widely criticized as an attempt to deflect from the allegations. Following Rapp's accusation, numerous other men came forward with similar stories. On November 1, 2017, actor Roberto Cavazos alleged that Spacey groped him in the mid-2000s at the Old Vic Theatre in London, where Spacey was artistic director from 2004 to 2015. The Old Vic conducted an internal investigation revealing 20 personal testimonies of alleged inappropriate behavior by Spacey between 1995 and 2013. Many of these incidents occurred on the theater's premises. On November 3, 2017, Netflix cut all ties with Spacey, halting production on House of Cards and shelving his film Gore. Ridley Scott reshot Spacey's scenes in All the Money in the World, replacing him with Christopher Plummer just weeks before the film's release. In 2018, Spacey was charged with indecent conduct in Nantucket, Massachusetts, for allegedly groping an 18-year-old man in 2016. The case was later dropped when the accuser invoked his Fifth Amendment rights during a hearing about his missing phone. In May 2022, Spacey was charged with 4 counts of SA against 3 men in the UK, dating back to incidents between 2005 and 2013. In July 2023, Spacey was found not guilty of these charges in a UK court. Despite the court verdict, Spacey's career has been irreparably damaged. His last major film role was in 2018's Billionaire Boys Club, which earned only $618 on its opening day.